Hello, welcome to Desert Blockchain Camp, 27th Avenue and Georgia in Phoenix, Arizona. Today is our open house, and we're going to be doing a workshop on automated market makers. Let me stop the screen share. My name is Jay Carpenter. I'm founder of Desert Blockchain and Desert Blockchain Camps. And if you're not familiar with our format, we have these sessions every Saturday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Arizona time. And the first hour from 11 a.m. to noon is a workshop. And today we're going to be talking about automated market makers. Next week, we will be, the 27th, we'll be talking about front running in the cryptocurrency space and blockchain space. And so stay tuned to that. You can join us on Meetup. If you look underneath the YouTube live stream, you'll find that we have links to the Meetup, to the presentation associated with this, and to some other resources for you. We also have a link to the Patreon account, which is where you can sign up to be a Desert Blockchain citizen and join the live streams live and be interactive with our conversation. And that's $10 per month. We're completely community supported with the $10 per month. Occasionally we'll have a sponsorship, but generally not. And that's only if somebody reaches out to us. And it's only if someone is a product that we would use or a service that we would use ourselves. So Martin is joining us. Thank you for joining us, Martin. And basically, the second hour, which will be from noon to 1, we turn off the video, the Zoom, and we'll just put up a placeholder page. And we have a luncheon here with networking and so forth from noon to 1 with free pizza if you happen to be in Phoenix, Arizona. And then at 1 o'clock, if you're joining us from anywhere in the world, you can get back on the Zoom or the live stream, and we open it up for a conversation about basically any topics in decentralization or so forth. And we have Martin joining us, I believe, from another state. So thank you, Martin. And we've got some folks that are coming in that are participating live. So I think that pretty well covers it. Let us know if you have any comments. Again, you can reach me, Jay Carpenter, at desertblockchain.com. And we're interested in building up the community and building up the activities here at the Desert Blockchain Camp. And we appreciate your support if you're a Desert Blockchain citizen, and you're always welcome to join us on every Saturday. So the other thing I'd like to mention is on the 22nd of December, we'll be having a 2021 year-end review and then a 2022 forecast, and that'll be at 7 p.m. So with that, I'll turn it over to Shane Sandler, Blockchaingerous, who will do the workshop on automated market makers. Take it away, Shane.
All right. Thank you, Jay. It is good to be here. I'm very excited for today. As Jay said, I am Shane. I go by Blockchaingerous on the internet and in the cryptoverse. And I also go by Crypto Cannoneer. My game here is, so I'm building out a live streamed carnival basically here in this warehouse. And so this is Crypto Cannoneer's Coin Carnival. And so you can see on my screen here, this is the view for the cannon here that I'm controlling. And it looks like it's not refreshing. Let me get that fixed real quick. Let's see here, deactivate, activate. All right, so I'm controlling this turret here through Telegram Messenger. So anyone can hop on the Telegram Messenger. It's an open chat, and you can just feed controls to the turret here. And you can fire water with the water gun. If you DM the water cannon bot here, that's over here on the left side of the screen. And then the main gun is a tennis ball gun. So you can shoot at tennis balls at targets here. And we're going to be upgrading our games to include a golf ball gun so that you can destroy stuff. And we're going to be putting t-shirt guns on buses. And so we've got all sorts of exciting things in the works here. And I'm actually applying for some more funding from Stellar Community Fund. So everything that I build is on the Stellar Lumens blockchain. And so if you're not familiar with that, I recommend checking it out. We will be talking about it today, especially with its context to automatic market makers and liquidity pools. So let me go ahead and get my screen share going here and we can hop into it. All right, share screen. I'm just going to send my browser window today. And here we go. So like I said, I build on Stellar Lumens, which I really enjoy that blockchain for a lot of reasons. I've talked about it a lot in the past. And like I said, I'm currently applying for some more funding from them. I already got some funding from them from the last SCF, but SCF is a really great program. The Stellar Development Foundation basically gives away about $1 million worth of Stellar every quarter. And so anyone can apply and you can ask for as much or as little money as you want. And if you only ask for a small amount, then it's much easier to get the votes that you need from the community. So I definitely recommend anyone to apply who's, trying to build out something and is looking for some funding. And let me see if I can move my Zoom window up top here because it is just getting in the way. Here we go. Okay, so anyways, so in relation to liquidity pools, Stellar actually just added automated market makers and liquidity pools into their native protocol. And so Stellar, one of the big things I love about Stellar is that it has a native decentralized exchange. The offer protocol is directly in the actual network. So like this is one of the ways you can create transactions on Stellar, which is the Stellar Laboratory. And it has the native manage sell and manage buy offers. So that's a really cool thing. And now they've added automated market makers and liquidity pools to the native protocol. So a little quick rundown on automated market makers and liquidity pools if you don't know. So liquidity pools and automated market makers are basically ways for people to deposit their funds, their cryptocurrency, into a pool that then can be used to add liquidity and make trades between two different assets. So let's say there's two assets that you want to trade for each other, but no one is offering them for each other. Then you can add your funds to the liquidity pool. And then basically every time a trade is made, the liquidity pool kind of handles the spread and between the difference between the buys and the sells. And then anyone who's deposited their funds into that liquidity pool and automated market maker can get a percentage of that spread difference. So whatever profits there are. If you're really interested in the back end and the details on how these things work, I definitely recommend you check out the Stellar docs here on the new liquidity pools and AMM. It has all the details on pricing and how it handles the spreads and trust lines and all that good stuff. If you can't find it, so you can go into the Stellar Laboratory here. And if you let's see here, if you come down to the operation type and you do a liquidity pool operation, then it'll give you the documentation link right here. So that's a really good way to get into all the nitty-gritty details if you're a programmer or if you care about all of that minutia and those details there. But basically, liquidity pools allow people to create liquidity for a new asset. So it's really useful for token creators and people who are creating something new that other people aren't already offering buys and sells. You can deposit some of your own cryptocurrency and assets in order to provide the startup liquidity so that people can actually trade these assets back and forth. That's an interesting situation because it also allows people to kind of create artificial liquidity for an asset. So this is something you'll see sometimes in some of these rug pull scams is somebody created a new coin and they put in a bunch of liquidity and they drew in a bunch of investors and then they yank all the liquidity out and then no one else can sell because there's no one else buying. and the whole thing just crumbles to the ground. So you have to be careful of some of these new startup coins that appear to have liquidity just because the creator threw some money into the liquidity pool. If that liquidity isn't locked, it can be removed at any time, and you might find yourself with an asset that you can no longer trade. So going off of that, we should probably talk about Pancake Swap. So Pancake Swap is a really popular liquidity pool and DeFi protocol and decentralized exchange. So Pancake Swap is specifically built for the BNB, the Binance Smart Chain protocol. And this is where you're going to see a lot of these scam coins and meme coins, and just anyone can just throw something up there and try to get started, because it's a really inexpensive chain to work on, and it's relatively easy. It's basically just a clone of Ethereum, but it's made with a faster block size and lower transaction fees and more centralized and all that jazz. So it's an interesting protocol, but a lot of people who are just getting started in developing or just trying to create a meme coin end up getting started on BNB because it's cheap and relatively easy. So then what you've got here, and this is a pretty common type of interface you might see on an automated market maker or a liquidity pool, and most of them have really good apps too, like Pancake Swap and Sushi Swap. They're really mobile friendly, and I think the experience is honestly even better on mobile than it is on desktop. But you can go over here to liquidity, and you can add liquidity into a pool. So you have to select both currencies. So let's say you want to just add into the BNB like Bitcoin pool, or let's say BNB versus Binance USD. So then you can deposit into this pool and you can see how much your share will be. And so the prices are all like algorithmically decided. So based on how much of one asset you want to deposit, you have to put in a basically corresponding amount of the other asset. So you have to have both of the assets you want to add to a liquidity pool. And then basically the way that the liquidity pool decides if it's going to make a trade is if the result of the trade results in more capital, basically. So if you have more total BNB and BUSD after the trade, then it'll do it. And that's kind of the underlying protocol on these AMMs. For more information on that, definitely check out this document here on how the liquidity pool works. And so you can add in that liquidity, and then you can also remove that liquidity at any time, plus whatever profits you have. So every different AMM and liquidity pool has like a different setup for like how much profit they take off of the spread. It's basically front running, and we're going to talk about that more next week. But so for Pancake Swap, and I think Sushi Swap as well, and I think even some of the Uniswap pools, people can kind of arbitrarily decide. The Stellar pool has a set basically 0.3% profit, and then that's also taken out of your share of the pool. So like if I only deposited one BNB and 580 BUSD, then I have less than 0.01% of the pool. So of all the profits that the whole AMM protocol makes, I'm only going to get my share of based on my portion of the pool. So you have to deposit a lot if you want to have a lot of the pool. And when it's sort of a scary thing when the liquidity pool is centralized like that, because then that one person can kind of just yank out all of the liquidity. So it's a really good thing when you see a really big liquidity pool with a lot of different contributors, because then that liquidity isn't really going anywhere. And that's the kind of thing you want to see when you're trading assets in general, especially if you're trying to get into some sketchier assets or newer assets, things like that. So you can see here, you can deposit here. You'd have to connect your wallet. I don't have an active BNB wallet on this machine here, so I won't be able to do any actual trading on Pancake Swap, but just trying to give you a sense of the interface. And a lot of these liquidity miners and these pools have even more complex like DeFi protocol offerings beyond just the liquidity pools. There's often like staking pools and all sorts of different things that they've added in. These DeFi protocols are getting very complex. You can really get deep into the nitty gritty of how some of these back-end DeFi protocols work. And there's a lot of different things you can do with your crypto to earn a passive income beyond just staking. A lot of people are familiar with staking or like yield bearing, like interest things, which basically in that situation, you're just lending your crypto to someone else. And so with these liquidity pools, it's sort of like lending it to an algorithm. you're letting a robot kind of arbitrage these trades and handle the front running and then give you a cut of the profits. So Pancake Swap is a really popular one, and yeah, it's pretty cool, but it's only for BNB. So if you're not on the BNB chain, it doesn't really do you any good. So we can move on to Sushi Swap, which Sushi Swap is pretty cool. This one is more focused on like the Ethereum network. It's very similar, you know, it's got the automated market makers here. Oh, it's actually got multi-chain now, so that's cool. I haven't really stayed up to date on Sushi lately. Let's open up the interface and see what it looks like on a browser. It definitely looks better on the browser than it did a while ago. I probably haven't looked at it in almost a year. So you can go, yeah, you can see the interface is pretty similar. You can go over to a liquidity pool. Let's say you want to be on the Ethereum, it's just alphabetized. So let's say you want to be on the ETH DAI liquidity pool. So you want to throw 1 ETH in there. Then you would need 4,200 DAI because that's just the current going price of an ETH. And then, yeah, you would have a very small portion of this liquidity pool. Let's say you're rolling with 100 ETH. Now you're starting to get into still even less than 1% of the pool. So this is a really big liquidity pool. Sushi Swap, as you saw there on the home page, it's pretty big. They're throwing around some big numbers there. Let's see. Yeah, over $4 billion of liquidity locked up. So that's pretty cool. And 140 billion in total volume. But that's, I assume, over the entire life of this product. So yeah, it's a really cool way to add liquidity to new pairs and to kind of create more movement in an exchange or in a market. And I think it definitely has the most value for new projects and people who are trying to launch something new and they need some liquidity available before anybody is buying and selling natively or naturally. So these are very useful protocols, and the BNB Pancake Swap is pretty cheap. You can get, you know, involved on Pancake Swap for like $5 or $10 and just kind of dip your toes in and get started. When you're trying to use like an Ethereum pool like Sushi, you know, you're going to be spending a lot more in gas fees. So you definitely want to know what you're doing and have a little bit more money to throw around. Be trying to be working in DeFi or decentralized exchanges like Uniswap or DeFi protocols on Ethereum like Sushi without like less than $1,000. You're just going to really burn up everything in gas fees. Even with only $1,000, you know, you can be burning up $300 pretty easily in gas fees interacting with some of these DeFi smart contracts. So they're kind of more tuned to bigger investors for all the Ethereum type stuff. So I definitely recommend trying to get started on a protocol that's a little bit cheaper so you can make your mistakes and, you know, waste less gas while you're learning on less expensive protocol, something that's going to be a little bit more forgiving. And so that brings me to Stellar, which is very exciting. So liquidity pools are actually really new on Stellar. This has been out on mainnet for like a month, I think. And they've been running on testnet for at least 6 months, most of this year. And so they've gotten all the kinks worked out and it launched really great and it's working really well. Big fan of what's going on here with Stellar liquidity pools. So the easiest way, in my opinion, to get started with depositing into the liquidity pool on Stellar is using Stellar X. So this is probably my favorite desktop interface for interacting with the Stellar decentralized exchange. It looks like Brave doesn't like it, so I guess I'm gonna have to switch to Chrome. Let's see here. Let me pull up Stellar X on Chrome and then I'll add this into my window share since you guys can't see what I'm doing. Let's see, Stellar X is not wanting to pull up on Chrome either. Maybe it's down. Oh, let me turn off my compressor here so you can actually hear me. All right. Okay, so Stellar X is not wanting to load. Let me see what's going on. Let me try Googling it. Let's go to the markets maybe. Maybe it's just their homepage that's down. Yeah, it seems like it's just their homepage. Let me See if I can pull it up in Brave. All right, so StellarX is a really cool interface for interacting with the Stellar Decentralized Exchange. I love it. It's definitely one of my favorites. The only drawback is there's no mobile version. This is pretty much PC only. There was an app, but they pretty much stopped maintaining it. The company that makes StellarX is Ultra Stellar, and they also make Lobster Wallet, and that's their mobile development pretty much. All of their mobile resources are going towards Lobster, which Lobster is another really great way to interact with the Stellar Decentralized Exchange. It's definitely my favorite mobile solution, but it doesn't have quite the robustness that StellarX has, at least for the PC version. So I really, really like StellarX. And actually, I'm going to go through a whole tutorial right now of setting up an account and see if we can actually do some AMM depositing, even though I guess I'd have to send some assets around. So let's see if we're able to do that. But basically, once you get into StellarX here, it should look familiar if you're familiar with other exchanges and sort of their interfaces. You can see the different trading pairs and various prices. But this is the tab that we're really interested in right now, which is the new AMM and liquidity pools. So when you come over to the StellarX liquidity pool, it's a much simpler interface than you saw on like Pancake Swap or Sushi Swap. It's really simple. Basically, once your wallet is connected, you just pick what pool you want to deposit into, and it handles all the back end for you. So it's really convenient. It's really simple. Definitely a great tool for beginners. And like you can see here, it's talking about the fixed 0.3% fee that the Stellar liquidity pool AMMs use. And that is specific to Stellar, that fixed fee. I think almost all the other pools have variable fees. And this is an interesting tab here. You can come over to the analytics and see some more info about the various pools. And these pools, like I said, they're brand new, and Stellar is much smaller than like Ethereum. As far as just like how much adoption it has, but it does have a really high amount of transaction volume. So Stellar is really useful for people who are trying to build automated market making bots. And so even before the native AMM protocol existed, there was a lot of people running their own like arbitrage bots and different bots built to take advantage of some different coins and the differences between various pairs, and basically profiting from bad liquidity, people profiting from really big spreads. And now the AMMs are really starting to help reduce some of that. So you can see here some of these pools. It looks like it's currently organized by Liquidity. So there's $3 million in the Lumens USDC pool. So that's great. And then Lumen Swap is looking popular. So YXLM is a really cool product on the Stellar network. This is a yield bearing version of XLM. Basically, it's one-to-one backed by real XLM, and this is by Ultra Stellar, the same people who make StellarX and Lobster Wallet. And so they have a yield bearing version of Lumens, and they have a yield bearing version of USDC, and those are pretty cool. And they're one-to-one backed, and they utilize another protocol in the Stellar network so that you can automatically swap between the two if there isn't actual liquidity on the exchange. And now that there pretty much is liquidity everywhere, it's not really a big deal needing that external protocol because all of these liquidity pools exist now.
Sure to state a disclaimer about investments.
Sure, absolutely. I need to cover myself here. I'm talking about things that I'm interested in, but I am not any sort of financial advisor, and I'm not endorsed by any of these products. And the crypto markets are risky, and anything that you invest, you should not invest more than you're willing to lose, because these things are very, very new, and new bugs are getting discovered all the time. So nothing in the crypto space is clean cut or clear. So you got to be really careful about this stuff. And yeah, I'm not endorsing any of these products. I'm just talking about them and how they exist. So take it all with a grain of salt and just be careful out there.
Yeah, and you've already mentioned it, but next week we'll be talking about front running, all sorts of market manipulation.
Yeah.
There is no regulation in most of these markets. And as you said, you should be prepared to lose everything.
Yeah, that's the only real crypto advice that I like that I've heard before is don't invest more than you're willing to lose in its entirety, because one mistake and you can send, your entire wallet to someone else's address, or, you can be subject to a phishing scam or whatever. There's no recourse to reclaim your crypto if someone takes it or you accidentally send it to the wrong place or you just make a mistake. So it's not a very forgiving space. So you got to be really careful and be wary. And so going back into these pairs here, you can see the liquidity pool. I'm curious here over about which pools have the most members, because some of these other pools that have high liquidity might have single, like very large contributors. And so, yeah, we've got a lot of members here in the Aqua pool, which Aqua is interesting too. Also an ultra stellar product. They kind of started doing liquidity pools before the native liquidity on Stellar was available. So Aqua is related to that, and Lumen Swap as well. These are all DeFi protocols that are playing around in this DeFi space. So they're all very interesting, and you have to be really careful because right here, I don't know if this is a real Brave token. So something about Stellar is that people can anchor assets and they can basically create like a Stellar wrapped version of other assets. So you've got Stellar wrapped Bitcoin, and you've got Stellar wrapped Ethereum, and you can theoretically have things like Stellar wrapped Brave, but a lot of times people will just make something with that name and it could be a total scam. It's not necessarily backed one-to-one by real Brave tokens. So you have to be careful of that, and you have to definitely check it out. Let's see what's going on with this domain. So you can kind of backtrace tokens. Anyone who's created a token, then they're trying to push it, they're going to publish information about it. So this has nothing to do with BAT, which is the more common Brave token that's seen on Ethereum, and it might even have its own chain now. But basic attention token, this is not that. This is a totally different Brave token that they just are using the same name, but this has nothing to do with basic attention token. So I think a lot of people being in this liquidity pool are probably assuming that it's a one-to-one backed version of basic attention token, and it very much is not. So you have to be careful of that. And there's a lot of scam coins, especially on any of these protocols where it's cheap to get started, like on Stellar and on Binance Smart Chain. So scammers or hackers or anyone can, try to make a scam token for like $5. So a lot of people do. It's very easy and it's accessible, and it's kind of risk-free for a lot of these scammers. So you're going to see a lot more scams on some of these cheaper protocols than like on Ethereum, where it might be thousands of dollars for them to get started up on a smart contract to try to put out this scam. So the scams are pretty rampant on some of these cheaper networks. So you do have to be really careful of that, and you got to definitely do your research and follow up and make sure you're interacting with the actual token that you want. I know specifically here, like with Lumen Swap, there's a bunch of fake versions of this LSP token. The most popular one that I see is their website is learninswap.io. So instead of the M here, it's an RN, and depending on your font and your browser, you can't even see it. It looks totally legit, and it just redirects to the real Lumen Swap website. So there's well over 1,000 trust lines on that asset, and it's a total scam. So definitely be wary and check that stuff out. As far as diving into this automated market making protocol a little bit more, let's go ahead and get started on signing up for a Stellar X account, and we can kind of walk through it and do basically an intro to what it would actually take to get going and deposit. Let's say you've got some lumens and some whatever other asset that you want to put into a liquidity pool, and we will go ahead and get started. And a cool thing about Stellar X here is that it's totally free. They refund the very small network costs associated with using the Stellar Lumens blockchain. So that's super cool too. All right, so you can go down to sign up. You could also just do sign up here instead of scrolling all the way down. So we can go ahead and throw in an email. I don't know if I actually have an Stellar X account associated with my email. Let's see here. You could connect with Wallet Connect. Oh, that's cool. So if you already have a Lobster wallet, you can just do a Wallet Connect here. And that would be really useful. And I need to set up like a throwaway email account for doing these demos. That would be a good idea. So I'll have that prepared for next time so that we can just kind of do some of this, get further into some of this stuff. But it's a pretty standard sign up situation. If you're not familiar with signing up for a cryptocurrency wallet, you're going to have to store your seed phrase, which it's basically a really long form version of your password. It allows you to recover your account. But it's also, essentially your password. So if someone else gets a hold of it, they can drain out your account, they can reset it up somewhere else, they can do all of that stuff. So you got to be really wary with your seed phrase. You definitely don't want to store it in like plain text on your computer. If you're going to store a digital copy of it, definitely encrypt it or keep it in a secure passwords manager. Let's see, what else can we talk about with automated market makers and liquidity pools? So I can set up more a different email. So actually, let me see here. So I'm screen sharing this Brave window. So let me create a throwaway email account real quick on my Chrome window that you guys can't see, I think. And we will go on from there. Let's see here. Let's see. Let's grab a temporary email address. See what happens. All right, just generating a temporary email address here. Copy it over. And we'll pop over to StellarX and go through this account creation. Is there something you wanted to add, Jay?
Yeah. Go ahead and finish what you said. I got a good question.
Sounds good. We'll just do, we'll do demo 1, 2, 3, 4. Weak password. Yeah, it is. I'm quite aware of that. Maybe we throw a money sign in there. Oh, they want a really secure password. Oh, we'll just go back to the money sign and we'll create it. All right, so that was test 1, 2, 3, 4 and the money sign. We'll save that and then send in a verification. Let's hop back over to that temporary email thing. It should be showing me. Here we go. We got the verify email address. We're gonna click verify. I know you can't see this window. I should have just shared my whole screen with you, but this works out. It's asking me to confirm my, like maybe I can grab that link and put it in. I'll just do it right here. Demo 1, 2, 3, 4 money sign. Where's my money sign? Lost it. There it goes. We'll confirm that. All right, so I need you guys to see this part. So let me back out and we'll see what happens here if I try to do this again. All right, I'm going to copy this email verify link and we'll bring it back over to Brave here. And we'll throw that in and see if it still works or if it's all right. So it's asking me to confirm the password. So demo 1, 2, 3, 4 money sign confirm. All right, so this is what I was talking about. Should be pulling up. Oh, here we go. All right, so this is what I'm talking about with the secret key. So you gotta make sure you store your secret key securely. If you already had a Stellar wallet, like that you generated on your own or using the Stellar Laboratory or with Lobster or whatever, you could use your existing secret key to basically link your current Stellar wallet with your StellarX account, which is a nice feature that generally speaking, it's not a good idea to enter your secret key anywhere on the internet. You have to really trust whatever website you're interacting with, and you need to verify your security of your connection here and make sure that your certificate is valid and all that's in order. And you still are sort of subject to potential DNS attacks if like the website's been redirected and then, they're using masking. So generally speaking, it's very dangerous to enter your secret key anywhere on the internet. So that's why a lot of these things exist that make it so you don't have to enter your secret key anywhere. So that's sort of the big deal with hardware wallets, is that they don't enter your secret key anywhere. You never even have a like a plain text file of your secret key that could ever be stolen. Basically what happens with these hardware wallets and like these browser extension wallets is this software, this website will send a transaction to your wallet manager just to be signed. And then your wallet manager can securely sign it and then submit the transaction for you, or return the signed transaction to the website for them to submit. And in that way, you can really protect your secret key because it never leaves your device. It's never in plain text. And so that's how you can protect yourself from, DNS attacks and all these other sort of attacks to try to get your secret key. Because once your secret key is out there, your wallet's just done. It's going to be totally drained. So we're going to go ahead and get a new secret key created for us. And so this is what I was talking about with your seed phrase. So you want to take your seed phrase and you can put it wherever you want. Since this is just a throwaway account that doesn't have any real money in it, I'm just going to throw it in Notepad in plain text, which you never want to do. You don't want to do this for real. So some people go as far as basically like embossing their seed phrase onto like a dog tag in like physical metal. That's pretty intense, but I mean, it is one of the better ways to have a like a physical backup that can't be hacked and won't degrade like if you just wrote it down on a piece of paper. But to be honest, writing it down on a piece of paper is more secure than storing it in like a plain text file on your computer. One of the preferred ways to store these is you can store it as an encrypted file on your computer, or one of the better ways is to use like a secure password manager, like 1Pass or LastPass or something like that, where you can store an encrypted secure note. So that's a good way to store your seed phrases. Since this one is just a demo, I'm just going to store it in Notepad, and then it's going to ask you to actually enter it to prove that you have saved it somewhere. Because if you lose this seed phrase, they won't be able to recover your account. This isn't like a regular account and password that you have on any other website where they can just make you a new one. If you don't have your seed phrase, your account basically gets locked out forever. They don't store it for you and they can't recover it for you. So you have to keep this secure. So yeah, they make you prove that you actually did it. And now this is giving you a public wallet address. And so on Stellar Lumen's blockchain, the key pair exists, but the account doesn't exist until it gets funded with at least 1 lumen. And so that's what it's asking about here, whether you want to fund it later, if you want to buy lumens. I'm super curious what their buy lumen situation is like these days. Fiat gateways, are still different by every country. And usually they have pretty steep fees. So let's see what this looks like. So it is a Visa MasterCard gateway. That's pretty cool. $30. It doesn't say how much you're paying in fees here. I think lumens are going for about 35 cents right now. So a little bit of quick math, at $30, if you weren't paying any transaction fees, you'd be getting 85 lumens. So it's only a fee of like 2 or 3 lumens. That's pretty good. It's like $1. So that's like a 0.3% fee. That's by far the best I've seen for a fiat gateway. So that's pretty rad. I'm not sure who's handling their credit card stuff, though. It looks like it's MoonPay, which I've worked with, seen MoonPay previously. I thought their fees were much steeper than that. So I wonder if Ultra Stellar is eating some of those fees for you, or what's going on there, because that is a really good fee rate for a fiat gateway. So super into that. I definitely want to play around with that some more and check it out. Let's see what happens if we continue. Oh, they hadn't given us the fee yet. There it is. So $5 fee. That's pretty standard for working with a fiat gateway there. And looks like they weren't hitting you with too much spread, just like 2 lumens. And let's see how much that fee goes up if you're buying more. Say you're spending the max is 12,000. Let's just go with 5,000. See what the fee ends up being. $325. So that's a pretty steep fee. So it's not just $5. It seems like it's definitely a percentage based fee. So that is, I think he's from the bus side. Probably wondering why the roll-up gate's open.
Oh,
So that is one way you could get started with Lumens and getting set up with your wallet if you didn't have access to Lumens in some other way. If you have Lumens are available on all sorts of major exchanges. So if you are on Coinbase or whatever else, you can grab Lumens there and then just send them over to your account. So this is the Stellar X interface once you have your wallet set up, and it isn't like other exchanges. So it's really just an interface. It's a UI for accessing the Stellar Decentralized Exchange. This Stellar X is not holding your money. They're not making the trades. They're not connecting anything. It's just giving you a clean user interface for interacting with the Stellar Decentralized Exchange that already exists. And it's totally non-custodial. You keep everything in your wallet and they don't have access to your funds. So we can walk through this tutorial. Yeah, it's all peer-to-peer right on the Stellar Decentralized Exchange. If you aren't familiar with general exchange interfaces, this is a great little tutorial to try to get you familiar. So tethers isn't a term that I love, but basically it means that it's representative of another coin. So it's basically redeemable at a 1-to-1 rate. So they're using the term tethers. I prefer Stellar wrapped tokens, like wrapped Bitcoin. I think that's definitely got a parallel and familiarity to people who are from the Ethereum ecosystem, and you got, wrapped Ether and wrapped Bitcoin and all that stuff. And so, yeah, they're basically exchangeable 1-to-1 for the original asset, but you're getting the Stellar version. And yeah, tethered tokens, a term that I don't like, allows you to work with fiats as well, basically pegged. I prefer the term pegged or backed as opposed to tethered, but that's the term that they're going with. And so, yeah, that works with fiat assets as well. So you can have, USD coin is a tethered, quote unquote, or pegged coin to USD that's redeemable for real dollars in a real bank account. And you can get USD coin on a few networks now. So it's definitely on Ethereum and Stellar. I think it's maybe on Algorand and maybe Solana as well. So USDC is pretty cool. And that's offered by the Center Consortium, which I think is, associated with Coinbase and some other big names. And then, yeah, there's native tokens here that aren't tied to anything. Sometimes they're like a utility token for a specific service. Sometimes they're like a DAO token or some sort of governance token for various projects. You can build tokens that are totally not representative of anything, like total meme coins like Dogecoin or whatever, that don't have any utility or any purpose. They're just for fun. And you can build all that on Stellar. It looks like they've got deposit here enabled as well. So you can use that MoonPay fiat gateway. And looks like they also offer withdrawals. So Stellar protocol has withdrawals in it that utilize off-chain ramps, whether that's for fiat or for going to other networks, whether you're trying to basically get an Ethereum backed coin or a wrapped version of something. So you can kind of move in between the different networks by using that deposit interface. And happy trading. So yeah, here we are back on this, and you can look at your wallet, which, this wallet is empty. We need to actually fund it before we would be able to see it on the blockchain or anything. But you can go into your AMMs and you can hop into your liquidity pools. You can add liquidity. So this looks just like some of those other liquidity protocols that we were talking about. You pick which assets you want to be involved in with their liquidity pool. So like I said, so this is native Lumens and this is ETH, but it's Stellar wrapped ETH. And wrapped tokens on Stellar network, they are offered by individuals or companies. So this version of wrapped Ethereum is offered by Ultrastellar. So Ultrastellar, like I said, is people who make Stellar X, and they make all sorts of products for the Stellar ecosystem. But there's other versions of wrapped ETH. So you basically, if you're investing in this wrapped ETH, you're assuming that Ultrastellar is trustworthy. And when you go to actually redeem your Stellar wrapped ETH, they'll have real ETH for you to exchange with. And so that's sort of a leap of trust. You have to trust the issuer. And so that's why you've got multiple options for who you can go with as far as who you want to use as your anchor, is what it's called in the Stellar ecosystem. The anchor is the company that actually offers the product and guarantees that it's backed one-to-one for the real asset. So it's tethered or pegged asset, whichever term you like. And yeah, there's probably 6 or so, or even probably more different anchors for ETH. And they all have different people who back them, and different pairs and different liquidity pools. And so hopefully now a lot of those are starting to get more interchangeable. Before liquidity pools and automated market makers, they were all very segmented. One anchor of ETH might have a lot of liquidity and none of the others would. And so now hopefully some of those more trustworthy anchors have added in their own liquidity pools between the various anchors for the same swapped or the same tethered asset. So that should be starting to build up. I'm probably going to get involved in that space and start adding some liquidity between some of the anchors that I consider trustworthy myself. But yeah, like I said, if you say you want to put in 1,000 lumens, there's a set price, a set amount of ETH that's worth, and you have to deposit both. It looks like this pool is very small. So if you deposited, $700 worth of assets, you'd have 75% of the pool. So it's a very small liquidity pool, probably not a lot of trading action, but if you wanted to get involved in that, you could secure a large portion of the pool. And if that liquidity or if that trading starts going up, you could start making a little bit of profit off of that 0.3% spread fee that the liquidity protocol charges.
I have a question.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to go ahead and stop screen sharing here. We're going to open it up for a little bit of discussion, because that's pretty much all that I had for this liquidity pool demo. So hopefully you guys found it interesting and learned something. And if there's other specific protocols or chains or things you want to hear about in the future, please let us know. But let me go ahead and switch my view here to us.
So I'm new to all of this, Shane, so thanks. This is very interesting, and I've been distracted, so maybe you've already covered this, but I had the idea that automated market makers were sort of like bots, but it seems like bots are separate. Can you talk a little bit about bots and how they're separate from automated market makers?
Sure.
Bots can basically like create artificial trading and stuff like that, which is a problem, right?
Absolutely. So there's a lot to unpack there. We might need to do a whole session on these topics. This is a topic that I'm obsessed with, actually. It's a really interesting blend between like the programming and like the programming and analytics and algorithmic side of development and price action. So a lot of times price action and development are like totally separate. Like a lot of these people who are involved in cryptocurrency only care about the price, and they don't care at all about development. And so a lot of these communities are really segmented. Like some people only want to talk about programming, and some people only want to talk about price. And so this is a really cool blend. Once we start getting into some of these DeFi protocols and these finance protocols and algorithmic trading and bots. But to answer your question, AMMs are pretty much a bot with a very specific purpose. So you can build a trade bot to do anything you want. If you want to build a trade bot that buys Bitcoin every time it falls 10%, you can do that. If you want to build a trade bot that tries to take advantage of arbitrage opportunities, you can do that too. AMMs are basically a purpose-built bot for creating liquidity and offering tokens with a spread, basically.
But somebody else is generally controlling that AMM bot, right?
Yeah. So
you're kind of piggybacking off of somebody else's program, their bot. And so forth.
It sort of like could be seen as like renting an algorithmic trading bot. So whoever created the bot would typically take a fee from the profits that you may or may not make by running their bot. And that's sort of not a direct parallel to what we're talking about with AMMs, but it's similar. So if you really want to get into the details there, it's all listed on the Stellar Liquidity, the documentation there for the liquidity pools. But basically, yeah, it's when we're going to talk more about front running. That's an important concept that ties into all this next week. But basically, when there's a big difference between the buying price and the selling price, the bots, the AMM bots come in to sort of reduce that friction and provide a little bit of liquidity there so that people can pull off trades without getting gouged by a really big spread. And then when the spread gets really volatile, the bot is front running the spread and making a profit, and that's where that share of profits come from. So it is a trade bot, and you're essentially just giving it funds so that it can run on its own, and you don't have any control over tweaking the settings or anything like that when it's part of like a liquidity protocol. So that I think that the Stellar liquidity protocol has that set profit fee of 0.3%, but I think that a lot of the other liquidity protocols get very volatile and very potentially super profitable when there's like big price movements and there's huge spreads. I think that some of like the Pancake Swaps and the Sushi Swaps, they can offer huge percentages to anyone who's in the liquidity pool, far more than the 0.3% like fixed fee that's available on the Stellar liquidity protocol, which I like. I've just now started diving into the details of the Stellar liquidity protocol. I think that's fair. You know, there's plenty of profit to go around. You don't need to be gouging the people who are just trying to make trades.
And maybe you've already gone over this, Shane, but have in the AMMs, you talked about rug pools, but have there been any, let's say, scams or collapses in the AMMs?
Oh, absolutely.
So,
I mean, Sushi Swap is an interesting one. I would definitely recommend, if you're interested in this space and some of the history of it, take a look at some of the history on Sushi Swap. Sushi Swap was originally launched as a liquidity pool, and they used what's called a vampire attack to basically siphon liquidity out of Uniswap. And then I think like 10 days after it launched, they'd pulled over like $1 billion in liquidity, and the owner walked away with like 70% of all the sushi, all the liquidity, everything. And then, you know, the whole community was furious. People are trying to hunt him down, all that stuff, because he was like an anonymous founder. He ended up giving it all back. He gave it all back, and you know, the Sushi protocol continues on today, and it's on major exchanges like Coinbase. And so yeah, there's a super interesting history there with Sushi Swap, but there's definitely been other liquidity pool protocols that just fully rug pulled. You know, they claimed to be decentralized, and the owner claimed that they couldn't yank all the liquidity out, but they did. And then on a smaller scale, like not the whole liquidity pool or DeFi protocol being a rug pull, you know, anyone can create a scam coin that they intend to rug pull and then put it up on in a liquidity pool. They can put some of their assets up so that it looks like it has artificial trading volume, especially if they start running a wash trading bot. So they can try to sort of pump their own coin and try to draw in more investors, and then they can yank all the liquidity out, and then no one can trade anymore because no one else wants to put liquidity into a token that the owner rug pulled. So that's actually a pretty common scam in like some of these like moonshots subreddits where people are trying to get in on these meme coins like right before they go big. So one thing you'll see if you start exploring this meme coin space where people are just creating these, I don't think there's any better term than shit coins. Like they are true garbage. The owners will claim that like the liquidity is locked. So that's one way that these people are trying to claim that they're not a scammer, that they're not going to yank all the liquidity out, is that they've locked their assets into the liquidity pool. So that's an interesting sort of turn that this meta or this industry is taking to try to convince more people that they're not going to pull all the liquidity out and leave you with a worthless token.
And do some of these scams basically start out where they'll actually pay out and then all of a sudden they'll just pull the whole thing?
Yeah,
it's sort of like a Ponzi scheme.
Oh yeah, fully. So a lot of these coins I've seen on they get big on like some of these subreddits that are dedicated to these kind of pump and dump moonshot kind of things. They pay for upvotes. And so it'll be trending on like a major subreddit or even on like the front page of Reddit because they bought 1,000 upvotes and 50 comments or whatever. Because it's not that expensive. You know, you can buy Reddit upvotes and stuff for a few $100. And then, that's how they sucker in people. They draw in some of the initial investors. So maybe they would throw, you could build a coin on BNB or Stellar for like $5, and you could throw 1,000 or 10,000 bucks into the liquidity pool so that it looks like there's liquidity available, and then spend a few $100 on some Reddit upvotes, and you could probably sucker in 1,000 people, maybe even like $100,000 worth of liquidity in like 6 to 12 hours. I've seen it. I've played around in that space a little bit when I see like a coin launch that way. And I threw like $10 into a BNB coin that was total garbage, like a ridiculous name, and I knew it was a shitcoin rug pull, and it 10x'd in like an hour. And so then I sold it, and then I watched it crumble to the ground, and I watched the creator yank all the liquidity out, and it was worth nothing within 24 hours. So you got to be really careful in that
Totally
space.
musical chairs.
Oh yeah, it's very much who's going to be holding this bag. It's total Ponzi games. It's a very, very risky space to be playing in. I don't recommend it. I don't recommend playing in that space with any amount of money that you're not willing to lose, because it is likely.
Cool. Okay. Well, let me.
Well, thank you for tuning in to our discussion on liquidity protocols and automated market makers. Please let us know what you'd like to see us talk about and learn about in the future. And we are here every Saturday doing these tutorials, and we have pizza, and it's a good time. So come check us out if you're in the Phoenix area, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Okay, are there any questions? Martin, you have any questions before we?
Yeah, could you explain what a wrapped coin is? Now I've seen now you have a stellar wrapped coin. So how does that work?
Yeah. Shane, you want to take that?
Yeah, so wrapped coins is sort of a term for talking about tokens that are specific to a blockchain. So when you want to interact with so the most common ecosystem is the Ethereum ecosystem. So if you want to interact with a tool like Uniswap or a lot of these other smart contracts on Ethereum, you can only send typically ERC20 tokens is the standard for Ethereum tokens. So like if you wanted to interact with Uniswap with Bitcoin, you have to use a wrapped version of Bitcoin. So it's basically Bitcoin, it's a Bitcoin token on the Ethereum network. So it's an ERC20 token that represents Bitcoin, and whoever created it or whatever smart contract runs it is claiming that you can exchange your wrapped Bitcoin for a real Bitcoin. And so that's a cross-chain swap once you go to actually redeem your wrapped Bitcoin for real Bitcoin. And so any network that has the ability to create tokens and create pegged tokens or tethered tokens like that, the term that I prefer is wrapped. And so the Stellar protocol basically allows you to create the same thing. You can create a Bitcoin equivalent on the Stellar network as a Stellar token that can interact with all these Stellar DeFi protocols. And then once you want to go redeem it for real Bitcoin, you're just trusting that whoever is the anchor of that asset actually has the real Bitcoin to redeem for your wrapped Bitcoin. And yeah, the term that's more popular on some of the Stellar development is tethered, but I don't really like that term. It rings too much of tether, which is ironic because it's not actually backed one-to-one USD the way that they claim. The whole concept, it's not real.
So, and people wrap other things like actually shares of stock, like you could wrap Apple stock or
Yeah.
IBM or whatever, right? So you
so yeah, you could have a wrapped version of any stock that is theoretically redeemable for that real stock, but it's represented as a crypto asset on some network. So if it's on the Stellar network, it's a Stellar wrapped version. If it's on the Ethereum network, it's an Ethereum wrapped version. And you can wrap tokens on pretty much any network that allows you to create custom tokens.
But how would you be able to get? Would you be able to get the asset back? I mean, or is it? I noticed they have some wrapped coins on.
Yeah.
But then how do you get at some point in time, you might want to get that.
Yeah.
The actual asset back, right?
Absolutely. So when we're talking about like Ethereum, typically you want to hope that 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 redeeming process is run by a smart contract and is decentralized and can never be turned off. And, you know, there's a liquidity pool of that real Bitcoin somewhere sitting there. That's the ideal way to have that done. A lot of the times on Stellar, that's not the case. It's actually managed by some company and just a piece of software that isn't a smart contract, that isn't immutable, that can be changed. So then you're relying on trust that that anchor is actually going to make it so that you can redeem it. But so, for example, one of the anchors on Stellar is called APay, and they run an interface through Telegram Messenger and on their website, where basically when you want to redeem their Stellar wrapped version of a token, you just send it to a specific address, and then you tell them what address you want your real Bitcoin or whatever sent to, and they've got a back-end software that handles that cross-chain swap.
But there's no way to do it yourself.
No, typically you have to rely on an outside protocol. That's why a smart contract protocol is the most like trustless way to do it, and that's definitely the best way to run an anchor. And I think decentralized, like trustless Stellar anchors are in the works. They're working on a system called turrets that allows for people to run sort of these decentralized cross-chain swaps, that so you don't have to rely on a real human, and you can do it trustlessly and immutably.
Well, Shane, you could, if you knew how to program in like Solidity or something like that, you could wrap whatever you wanted, right?
Absolutely, yeah. You could create your own Ethereum-based smart contract that could handle any Ethereum asset, but it's the cross-chain part where, you know, this Ethereum Solidity smart contract can't send real Bitcoin on the Bitcoin network. So you'd have to have some sort of external connection to process either a Lightning transaction or just a regular Bitcoin transaction. And that's the part that is not as trustless, that can be changed. You know, someone, either the creator or a scammer, could get into that software and redirect the Bitcoin to their own wallet. That's the part where you start, the trustlessness starts to break down. And there are protocols out there that are working on these cross-chain trustless atomic swaps from Polkadot. I think maybe even Solana and like Terra are working on things like that. So there are quite a few DeFi protocols out there that are working on these trustless atomic swaps that are cross-chain, but cross-chain hacking is also getting really popular too. So it's an interesting space.
Cool. All right. Well, so we're gonna go to a just a placeholder page for about an hour, and then at 1 o'clock Arizona time, we'll open it back up if anybody wants to join us then and have open conversation about anything decentralized or cryptocurrency or blockchain, whatever. Current events, open to that topic as well. So we're going to go silent for about an hour, and then you're welcome to join us. And if you happen to be in Phoenix and you'd like to join in person, please do so. We have some great conversations here live and in person during the lunch hour and then afterwards. So Martin, thanks for joining us. And do you have any questions, Martin, before we go quiet? Apparently not. Okay, cool. Thank you, and join us in about an hour if you're interested.
St. Lucia. It's in yeah, St. Kitts is another one. Barbados, and then the other one is down that way.
So Martin, we're
Portugal has one.
having a conversation about global citizenship and stuff like that,
Yes.
decentralization. If you can hear us, if anybody else is interested, let me take a look at the live stream.
They're not subject. Company is subject to American securities laws and money transmitter laws. It's an international organization, even though the owner, which usually aren't listed as the real owner, but the de facto owner is American. Because that's probably one of the more common ways that, people who have the money to open a foreign LLC or whatever they have to do that are getting around some of these American laws.
You know the guy who Sam or Benefits or whatever his name is, that started Sol, and also FTX blockchain, but the whole that's he's an American citizen. He runs everything for the Bahamas or the Hard Cayman.
So they have citizenship and
Well, in order to get out of your taxes, well, in the U.S. and some African nation is the only government countries on the planet that you get taxed by your citizenship, not by your residency. So here in Canada, you can just show the government I'm living wherever, and you get taxed at that rate. Not in the United States. You make $100 a month, you better pay your taxes. So it's one of the only countries. It's the only, first world nation.
So they're going to use I don't know.
Yeah, there are. There's a whole movement. The number one guy I capitalists, and some of the guys that I invested with that left. They're not just leaving because of taxes. It's a centerpiece, but it's freedom. It's just
infrastructure right now, right?
No, it's just crazy. It's just crazy.
Well, kind of the era that we're entering into is now alternatives and competition for the legacy sovereign structure.
Well, yeah, it's just taking back and going there for Arizona, Texas, Florida, or Arkansas, wherever. It's just taking it to the next level because you're freeing yourself one of these levels, but like your fire owner or yourself, you're the one who's the owner of the credit card. What? No, I mean school and shell. The government. I mean, traces back. So, but anyway, so that's just take it to the next level. And maybe you give up your gun ownership, but everything else is paid. They're not putting crap on the food. They're eating their organic stuff. If no one bothers you, passes you. So, I have started, I don't know. They're great. All those guys are pretty happy. I can't do it. If I wasn't married or my wife was on board, I'd be gone.
There's
I've had phone Portugal. I can't spend the whole time in Caribbean. It's beautiful, but I need a little bit of my rights. So I place in Portugal.
there's this crypto beach happening now in El Salvador.
Yeah, well,
Where
The whole country.
Yeah, the whole country
Let's talk right now.
is kind of exploding for cryptocurrency.
With being able to have like a candidate blockchain,
where you own your identity.
it's gonna be, you own your own ownership.
It's called self-sovereign identity.
Right, it's gonna be like the revolution of this technology, that all these people who don't really have this reliable identity. But one issue really that is another kind of roadblock is at some point you need someone to verify your identity before it's push blockchain forever. It can never be changed.
Well,
Right.
see, that's.
Kind of begin with a notary. The notary is the interface between the government and the public.
So let's say you go to the notary. So let's say you're someone who doesn't have an identity, and you want to put on the blockchain and now that's self-sovereignty. I can't just put whatever I want on the blockchain and say this is me and this is who I am, and it's immutable.
So you're touching on a central issue, in my view, as to why self-sovereign identity hasn't worked. Because you've got Microsoft, you've got the Hyperledger Foundation, all these huge entities are trying to figure out self-sovereign identity. But they're doing exactly what you're talking about, which is it's attestations, the technical term, where Bryce attests that J is J and I attest that Bryce is Bryce. But that's self-referential.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the flaw in it, is it's when you introduce attestation, you introduce this self-referential problem that doesn't make sense. So there's a different way to approach it. And that's what I think, which is more like an adversarial approach. It's more like a curing of your identity. So anyway, but yeah, that's the problem, is people think that they've got to have somebody else attest to Jade's identity or Ethan's identity. But then it becomes like setting up fake Facebook accounts and Google accounts, and enough so that then you got your identity, but it's basically just
Exactly. It's like,
law.
how do I have assurance you're Jay? Because you might have on the blockchain, you might have the keys to some NFT on the blockchain that says your identity. How do I know you're actually born as Jay and you're this person, right? At some point, you have to put this data on, and the data itself has to be true, But I can get assurance like in the blockchain, have the keys to that NFT and that identity.
True.
But at some point, you need this. It's almost like you need a trusted third party to then attest you're actually this person, and then put on the blockchain. Because then you might, just say you might wake up one day and try to put your information on the blockchain and find your identity is already there. Someone already has the key to your identity on the key.
Right.
It's like anyone can put data on the blockchain, and then it's immutable, and then you'll never be able to be Jay because someone else already is Jay with your information.
Well, there's a different approach to it that it involves dispute resolution. It also involves a marketplace for it to really work. But that's not the approach that's being taken right now. So anyway, but the self-sovereign identity, workable decentralized identity, is a key missing piece for this thing to really explode.
Right.
So anyways,
The thing is, the technology is there. Like you can have identity, but it's that middleman of figuring out, like, ensuring that you can't just put any old identity on the blockchain, take someone's identity and claim it as yours.
well, it's not a zeros and ones problem. It's a governance problem. It's a policy problem. So, and that's where we need some innovation and something new. It's just like, Bitcoin, the genius behind Bitcoin was the mining rewards. The genius behind Ethereum was using a limited amount of gas in order to stop or solve the halting problem. So, anyways.
But now it's staking, and now it's liquidity staking, liquidity pools, and it's other things. But you had said something that's really critical. A lot of these projects, they throw in the blockchain, you have to why the blockchain. What problems are going to solve? That's the critical. And why do you need the blockchain to solve it? And because if the answer is no, then it just slows it down. That's complexity and cost. So the DeFi is good though because you have a record. So ledger, right? So DeFi is good. So, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think the real. So I mean, in the first world, right? The systems we run on are, as much as we don't want to admit it, they're pretty stable, right? Like I can go to the government and have pretty good security that I can get my information, my social security card, my passport, right? And prove my identity. But there's places in the world where they can't do that reliably.
Right.
Like billions of people. And that's where the blockchain makes sense for them.
Yeah, it's true, and different things are going to set up different ways. You have an emerging technology. Some of the African countries are starting to come up with their own better economies. They're going to probably just do that. Well, in China, nobody has even has a credit card. They use WePay for everything, WeChat for everything. I mean, just so they don't even they for cash, forget it. But talk about another level of crazy. They don't even have that. And they, instead of doing, they went with massive amounts of cellular towers, they didn't have to do too many ramps.
Right, right.
Because it's just the country between people.
They bypass, they.
Yes, because, but the technology, when they became a first world nation, the technology was available when the United States did, it wasn't available, so, so. That was, but it's just the way it is. But there's different ones there. I think the DeFi is gonna be the number one thing, and I think there's some things that, there's a niche application of this investment.
NFTs, I think, for buildings or
Yeah.
businesses, that's gonna really be gigantic.
No, for the blockchain, it will, because you need to be unique and identifiable, so, the company that I invest in is gonna have a Katy Perry.
Theta?
Yeah, Katy
It's like
Perry.
YouTube. It's pretty much YouTube. Right?
Yeah, not so much, but they have the Theta TV, that's part of that, like YouTube, but Theta is a technology that, right now, there's not enough bandwidth to go around. I mean, they have, my sister's movie business, the television business, and they can shoot 8K right now, and they can deliver it to you, but the bandwidth is not there to go, so you'll get all pixelated. Even 4K, some movies you watch on.
So, Martin, I don't know if you're listening, but we're gonna cut it off here. Oh, you are? Okay, good.
So this is gonna be sharing the bandwidth.
Well, then I'll leave it going for a bit. I think what I'll do, I'm gonna stop the live stream and the recording so that, we can have more of a free flow conversation here. So if you're watching the recording in the future, thank you for participating. We're having a great conversation. We had a great conversation over lunch, and highly encourage you to attend in person if you can. Got another great group of folks today, and we're gonna end the recording in the live stream and resume next Saturday. We will leave it up for Martin, who's joining us from out of state. And Martin, if you're interested in chiming in, unmute and just.
Cool. Hey, what's up, Jay? How's it going?
Good, Martin.
Awesome.
Let me shut off the